Thank you for joining me on the Southwest Florida Business Podcast. I'm your host, Chris, and today I'm joined by Tony Badala and Charlie Lomangino from Southwest Waste. So we dive into their efforts after the hurricane, everything that went along with that. We dive into some of the high-paying jobs they have available right now and the impact that's going to have on Southwest Florida. And then we talk about certain aspects of recycling that I didn't know about. You probably don't either, but they're pretty fascinating, and how they impact builders, homeowners, everything like that. So without further ado, please enjoy this episode with Charlie and Tony from Southwest Waste. This episode is brought to you by Southwest Florida Podcast. We help businesses make marketing videos. A lot of businesses see the value in video content, but they don't know where to start. We work with businesses to highlight the value they bring to their customers and share that online. Now, we've created the Marketing Manager's Guide to Video Content that you can download for free by following the link below or scanning the QR code on your screen. Now, enjoy the show. Tony, Charlie, you guys want to roll into this?
Sure, I'm good.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.
For sure. So I guess before we kind of dive into all the things we're planning on diving into, can you guys give me a quick rundown of Southwest Waste, what you guys do, who you help, and then we'll take it from there.
So pretty much we're, at the moment, a construction and demolition collection and post-disposal company. So pretty much when people are either building a structure or ripping it down, we supply containers to remove the debris. The backbone of what we do is actually recycling, though. We take all that material, and we have state-of-the-art recycling facilities that separate all the different commodities: wood, cardboard, metal. We do make a dirt product that currently goes to a landfill, but there are, on the East Coast, they got permitted for commercial use, landscaping berms, golf course elevations, but we pretty much take what everybody builds with and turn it into different products. So eventually what we'll do is add a downstream system. So we pull metal. We own a metal shredder on the East Coast. We shred our own metal, sell it overseas. Cardboard, we pretty much sell it, depending on the market, to a person that bales it and sells it overseas. The wood, we either sell or dump for zero down the street at USA Mulch, and they grind it and make a product out of it. And the concrete either goes to lake fills, where there's lakes that are deemed to be permissible to fill and go from dead land to buildable land, or we'll crush it and sell it as subbase. So the collection company, or we call it the hauling company, is just basically to feed the processing facilities. So currently we have 5 of them right now. Naples, we have 1 in Naples, 2 in Fort Myers, 1 coming out of the ground in Port Charlotte, and we have a transfer station up in Sarasota.
Okay.
So that's the backbone of what we do.
Got it. So, all right, that's interesting. I think that's a piece that I didn't know too much about, and I don't think most people realize. And I was one of the questions I was going to ask is where like the real sources of revenue are and how you're helping people with that. So how did you go ahead.
Well, a lot of people with the contractors within Lee County, Collier County, they also get credits, meaning on their building permits for recycling percentages. So we help them get to that point. Out of the 5 accredited facilities for recycling, we own 3 of them right now between Collier County and Lee County. So then what that means is a savings to the builder, savings to the homeowner on building permits and so forth.
Okay, got it. So there's requirements that each of these builders have to hit within the counties.
Of certain recycling percentage, 50% right now, and we exceed that.
Okay, got it. Just curious, what is the percentage that you guys are at now?
So right now, when you take the dirt product and put that on the side, we do feel that eventually that will be permitted for some sort of use. That makes up about 30% of our inbound by weight. If you count the dirt, we're up to 90%. If you take the dirt out, we're somewhere between 60 and 65.
Okay.
So, and like we said, so the first state-of-the-art system that, like what we had on the East Coast that we brought to the West Coast, that just got commissioned about 2 months ago. So we really haven't got a really true feel for what it is just yet. And obviously the waste streams differ, based on the facilities. Some get more demo, some get more new construction. But on the East Coast, with the same type of facilities on new construction, we were up to 95% diversion.
Wow. Okay.
We don't own the
at our
landfill.
state-of-the-art
We don't own the
facility,
landfill, so we want to divert as much as possible.
Got it. That's got to be a huge problem that you're solving for these builders. I mean, so if they can't hit those percentages, then they can't really operate?
No, they can operate, but more or less they get credits for going to a recycling facility.
Got it.
So part of our attraction to Lee County, there were many reasons, but one is they have a great solid waste director. They are very focused on recycling. It's one of their core values, which aligns with what we do, because pretty much anybody can go buy a truck and pick up construction and demolition debris. But not everybody either has the ability, the know-how, or the capital to process it and recycle it correctly. So it lent an opportunity to Tony and I to start up over here.
And we had a great reputation on the East Coast of Florida. Between the county people at the solid waste department knew of us, knew what we did. DEP knows of us, knows what we could do. And they feel very comfortable with us. So our permitting process, when it says Southwest waste, it's been an easy process.
Got it. Well, and you guys were in the business before. We were talking about that a little bit, but can you guys give me a rundown of how you guys got into the industry, how all this stuff started, and then how that led to the formation of this company?
So I think it really goes back to my father. They've had a very large municipal and C&D company in New York State, specifically the city, Brooklyn, Queens, a little bit on Long Island. And, as they were collecting construction and demolition debris, they used to have to separate it in the yards. And they realized, wow, a lot of this is recyclable. I mean, one story that came out was that my dad was sitting in a transfer station and he just started burning wood to keep warm. Because it was in the middle of the night, it was freezing cold. In New York, you got to do everything at night because during the day it's too congested. And before you know it, he was burned through a 30-yarder full of wood that's container size, in a few hours. And so that gave him the idea to, well, there's other, as he calls it, gold in the hills, between metal. He calls it actually the urban ore. There's actually, that's very recoverable. So he flew to Europe because Europe at the time, and still is in some ways ahead of us in their recycling technology, picked up on a few ideas and started implementing it in his business model.
And what year was that? Or roughly?
It started in the 70s, ended in the mid-90s. He sold out in the mid-90s. And, the largest privately owned waste recycling company and collection company in New York City, and retired to Florida, so he thought, and got started again. Over that time period, technology increased, recycling became more, at the forefront of people's minds, and then Florida is just a boom town. It has been since the early 2000s. It's still continuing. So we took that model, brought it to Florida, and Florida does a really, really good job of being smart about how they go about recycling. So, so your regulatory departments could be over-regulating in a sense where it works against recycling. Here they have a very pragmatic approach as to how they, regulate you. So like clean concrete, you need buildable land. Florida's got a lot of wetlands. Putting a piece of concrete in any body of water in the Northeast is, so badly frowned against that you wouldn't even think of doing it. They don't have the problem that Florida has. It's more dry land. But when you start looking at Florida, there's a lot of wetlands. Mm-hmm. So the regulatory agencies do a really good job of balancing, keeping the wetlands safe, and then identifying properties that can be filled for buildable land. And concrete is it's a pretty clean source. There's not a whole lot into it.
Got it.
So what they allow us to do with wood, they're very focused on keeping the material in a safe way out of the landfills. And it's probably, in my opinion, probably the best state to live in for recycling.
Okay.
So like we have companies still on Long Island to this day, and a lot of it's got to go to the landfill, and landfills take up space, and we're not building or making any more new land. So if you can keep it out of the landfill in a safe way, that's the way to go about it. And Florida's been really aggressive with it.
On the East Coast, when we had metal products that we couldn't get rid of, we were taking it to a facility and they would downgrade. His dad said, go start a metal shredder. Let's put a metal shredder in. And we did that. Now, as of today, we're the second largest metal recycler on the East Coast of Florida. Then we had the problem with the concrete. Get a concrete crusher. So we opened up a 10-acre facility in the second facility, and now we're maybe the largest concrete recycler in Southeast Florida. Do about 50 to 60,000 yards of recycled concrete on a monthly basis. So here, there's a lot of different outlets here. There's a lot of resources here for our outlets, which is allowing us to concentrate on recycling the C&D, getting our systems up, infrastructure done in the 2 years that we've been here. We, like Charlie said, we have 5 facilities up and running, and we have another year to get our full infrastructure completed, and after that, we're going to be running at that point. So it's going to feel real good.
Seems like you guys are already running.
Not to mention, we just went through a hurricane in October, and we were here for the county. And we took a lot of that material from the hurricane in Lee County and ran it right through our systems.
Well, what was that like? What involvement did you guys have in the cleanup with the hurricane?
So Tony did a wonderful job of getting in contact with the different contractors that
Crowder
were
Golf.
Crowder Golf. There's a number of different ones that are out there. Tony worked well with all of them. We got our sites approved to be disposal facilities. And the beauty of it wasn't just going to go to a landfill. And, there's definitely a need for landfills, don't get me wrong. But it wasn't all going to go to the landfill. We ran a lot of it through our processing systems and knocked down at least 50 to 60% of it from going to the landfill.
Sure.
But it also just gave another release valve. I mean, we went through hurricanes on the East Coast, and they weren't anything like this. This is by far the most destructive hurricane that we've ever worked in. Not that, I'm sure there was a worse one somewhere else, but the amount of home damage was incredible. On the East Coast, we saw a lot of tree damage, horticulture stuff, but this was a lot of structural damage because of the flooding combined with the winds. And it was just, I've never seen volumes like that our volumes doubled literally overnight. And we understood, you see, at some level too, you see the human suffering that's going on, the people that have been displaced. We did a ton for our own employees. As far as providing gas to get back and forth to work, we actually flew a good portion of our customer service department to the East Coast, where we still, had, offices up and running so we could take customer phone calls. We've done a lot of different programs. We deployed our own trucks. We also have a land development company as well. We put them out there to help dig out our employees, get, their driveways clear, move debris from the backyards. But we were up and running. The hurricane, I believe, hit on a Wednesday. Thursday, we assessed the damage. We were back on the road on Friday.
And we also helped out local sheriff's departments, Collier and Lee County, especially people within the departments that needed help, containers, land, with the bobcats and so forth. We also helped out anybody that needed it as much as we possibly could that were part of the cleanup. So
yeah. What was the influx like? I know you said it doubled overnight. Like, what are some of the what are some of the things that come with running a business when something like that happens? Like, what are the main things that you guys had to focus on, dial in on? How did you support that?
We pride ourselves in service in the hauling division. The post disposal facilities are somewhat simple. You pull up, you get scaled in, you dump, and then you go. As far as the hauling end of the business, people call, they're expecting containers. We've always been same day or next day. When the phones opened up after the hurricane, it was just out of control. And then you got to balance taking care of your core customers, the customers that were there prior to the storm, because they've been with you the whole time. You want to make sure they get some level of preferential treatment because it's what keeps the lights on. But at the same time, you're trying to balance that with helping, the individual that, just lost their home and is trying to put their life back together again. To be honest with you, this one was much different than anything we've ever experienced. It took about a week to get a feel for the amount of volume because it got to a point where you only have so many trucks, you only have so many containers. And then at the end of the day, as great as all of our employees are, they're human beings with families. They have their own needs to have to, fulfill and get some rest. I mean, we were working 7 days a week for the first month and a half at the processing facilities and with the hauling divisions. But it was kind of, there's no playbook for it. There's no training that you can go through because everyone's different. And then something of the magnitude of what we all just experienced, you can't plan for that. And we kind of just learned on the fly. Thank God we were able to get access to containers. We were able to get more trucks.
Our employees were fantastic during this whole process. I mean, they wanted to be there. They wanted to get on the road. Once they took care of their own home, they were more interested in getting on the truck. I mean, it was a good money making time for them, but also just a sense of maybe intrigue of what was out there. And the potential of what that they're helping out other people was a great feeling to watch those employees that we have. I was very proud of them.
It's awesome, man. Yeah, it was interesting to see how different people reacted differently during the storm. You kind of saw the best and the worst of people. I think. Yes. It was interesting.
But hats off to our governor. I mean, truly, we've been through a number of hurricanes. You go sometimes 4 or 5 days without fuel. We never lost access to fuel, which is huge. Employees can get to work. The lines, obviously, you can't control them. That's why we were providing fuel. Just, hey, don't worry about trying to get fuel during the day. We have it here. But, that was always a concern in the past where we would have to, pretty much pay, a premium to make sure that, hey, somebody's not going to get fuel. Let's make sure it's not us. But, fuel was readily available. The emergency services, I mean, the response to this one was probably as good as you could possibly have.
The local commissioners did a fantastic job here.
Yep.
I mean, I was proud to be a part of it with them. So
yeah, and it was amazing to watch how fast they came in, like rebuilding the Sanibel Bridge in such short time.
Short notice.
Matt Lachey, they had that the road there, at least some road there, in 3 days or something like that.
Yeah.
But Tony brings up a good point. Our commissioners, the government that we have in Lee County specifically, they're just very smart, common sense approach. I mean, and that's what, they did a wonderful job of organizing all this. I mean, Doug Whitehead, he's the head of the solid
Stayed
waste.
calm the whole time. I remember talking to him.
He's just great. The commissioners that we have here, I mean, we obviously have to deal with them, especially when it comes to the municipal contracts. Every one of them is great. Our sheriff here in Lee County is outstanding.
He kept the place safe and kept it so that everything kept moving, and very proud to be a part of Lee County.
That's awesome, man. So I mean, and I know that you're growing like crazy, and it seems like you're going to be here for a little bit. So it's good to have that backing.
Yes.
So why did you guys pick this area?
So I know this is going to say, unless you're in the waste business, it's going to sound a little out there, but the waste business gets in your blood. So, a lot of professions, you go to work and your contribution is great, but it's hard to see sometimes. When you see your trucks on the road, you see your facilities, there's a pride of ownership that goes along with it that is probably different than any other business I've been in. We had a large company on the East Coast. We sold it. I had non-compete for 5 years. I wasn't allowed back in the business. I would go back and forth between New York and Florida because we started some companies on Long Island, and COVID hit, and New York with kind of how they approached COVID, wasn't really friendly about having travelers. So
no, I thought they handled it great up there.
Yeah, no, I'm born and raised. I was born in New York, Floridian since 2000, but. So the ownership group that owns the companies on Long Island, two of them being my father and I, said, hey, listen, they're really strict about, who's going to fly here, the quarantine, God forbid you get it, bring it. So pretty much for a year, I stopped doing that once a month, going back and forth, and I got bored. And so I'm sitting at my desk, and I started doing some research because my non-compete was coming to an end. And I said, I want to start again. I don't want to leave Florida. I love Florida. And as I started looking at some of the demographics and population shifts, 6 of the fastest growing cities in the country are on the west coast of Florida. Mm-hmm. And that, coupled with the fact that Lee County is so pro recycling, fit right in. And then to make it a little better, when you sell your business, you take your money from being in the waste business and you go into various different investments. Most common obviously is the stock market. And with what I saw coming, I kind of felt inflation was going to start to creep up on us, and a lot of money one day is not a lot of money tomorrow. So, and Tony and I are both young. I said we have to start back up again. But how do you move from the market back into an investment without taking the bite of capital gains? So the area that our headquarters will be in, we're building a 14,000 square foot state-of-the-art corporate office. The Rockville processing facility, which sits on 4 acres, our state-of-the-art maintenance facility, which sits on 4 acres, our truck depot, which is in the process of being built out, that sits on 7 acres, are all in what they call a qualified opportunity zone, which is pretty much just it's a tool for economic redevelopment in areas that are of need of it. So Fort Myers was perfect. The platform purchase that we did, which was Southwest Disposal, sat right in the middle of the qualified opportunity zone. Okay. So there it's also called enterprise zones.
So the way that it works is you can actually take like capital and assets that you've already got, and if you use this as a vehicle to develop an area and bring business into it, and then you don't get penalized for as much.
So what it does is defer you from having to pay capital gains from when you liquidate an asset.
Okay.
So you get to use that tax money and there's a bunch of qualifications you got to meet, but you're allowed to use that tax money to go build a business. And then as long as you pass your asset ratios and there's some other prerequisites, when you roll out, you get some benefit with tax. But with the beautiful, what it really does is takes areas that were kind of, in need of freshening up. And so, some of the qualifications, you got to improve a property X amount of dollars to qualify. So it forces you to dump millions and millions of dollars into an area that otherwise wouldn't see it. So, and then a bunch, like with us, we're very, our business is very labor intensive. The amount of jobs that it's creating, I mean, just in that Rockville, area alone, we got to have 70, 80 new jobs that came along with us, and it's growing as if we
more, including the drivers.
Yeah, yes. If we win one of the Lee County areas for the municipal contracts, that adds each RFP adds 50 new employees that will be domiciled in that area.
Wow.
So, and then what you see from it, they use the local restaurants, they fuel up at the local gas stations. It just brings life into an area which was repressed before. Yeah, otherwise stagnant.
So how many employees were you at 2 years ago, and where are you guys at now?
We started with 30, yep. And we're at 275.
So like slow and steady growth.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, not so much.
Just going back to what Charlie said, when you take a road like Martin Luther King and Rockville Road, the office that we're going to be putting there is maybe going to be the prettiest office in the city. And that's what we're going to bring to that area, which was not developed in that way before. We're going to put a state-of-the-art trucking facility on Rockville Road, which was field or just piles of dirt before with other things there. So the infrastructure that we're bringing to that one area where our businesses are is just going to be astronomical to the city.
Yeah.
So it goes back to, I mean, not trying to be a homer, but that's why Florida is in my opinion, the best state to live in, and especially Lee County. It's so pro-business. It's super safe. I mean, Sheriff Marceno does a wonderful job. Commissioners are super smart. They're business driven, and they understand that you need to provide that environment to attract new blood. And so, we're more than happy with it's exceeded all of our expectations. And everybody that you work with in Lee County just has a really nice way about them. And you're dealing with people that are working with the basis of common sense. You're not, fighting against yourself. So it's great. So all those things were taken into consideration. And originally what we were going to do is commute from the East Coast, be here 3-4 days a week. And then, as we saw the opportunity develop, and then we fell in love with the area, we moved our families over. So now we're permanent West Coasters.
You're here.
Yep.
You're here.
Welcome. Thank you. So, and I know that this is bringing a lot of jobs, and you guys have a lot of opportunities. I checked out the website too, and I know Sydney's been posting a lot on there. So what are some of the things that, both the opportunities that you guys have coming up right now, and then also, like we were talking about before we started rolling, just some of the challenges that come with growing, and what you see some of the challenges with hiring are. And
so why don't you take it from the sales point, and I'll take it from the ops point.
Sales wise, we have the unlimited ability right now to grow as fast as we want to grow. We actually had to slow it down at some point, because you don't want to overexceed, you don't want to underperform, especially to the customers that rely on you. We did some acquisitions when we first took over, and then since then we've been doing all internal growth, just building up based on the name that we built, the reputation with services that we built. But as far as what I see going forwards, I see, barring a complete meltdown of the economy, I see this as continued growth, as fast as we want to grow it, and as fast as we're going to be able to produce the same services to our customers in the near future. So we're very optimistic about the future of where we're going.
Nice.
I think the West Coast of Florida provides tremendous opportunity. As areas, the living expense and cost in certain areas in the country continue to increase, Florida still, keeps pretty much a lot of that in check. The best that you can do. I know some inflation, you can't get away from it. But having a very favorable tax structure like we have in our state, plus the opportunity, people can come here, sell their homes in different areas, put some money in the bank. There's still value in the property that they're buying. There's still buildable land, which there's much more of that on the West Coast of Florida than the East Coast of Florida.
Oh yeah.
And I think just the way Florida has been governing itself it's becoming appealing. So obviously, as the people come, there becomes a need for homes, commercial to support the homes, and everything grows around it. And I think what you're seeing with the West Coast of Florida, given it's got great barrier islands, it's, as far as development's concerned, there's a lot of room to grow, and people can do it right. So
I just had a meeting with two or three of our largest customers within the last week. And sometimes I'm afraid to ask the question, how many homes did you close on last month? And everything was a smile first and, 53 last week. And, wow, it's not where other parts of this country is. So I'm very pleased where we decided to start this company.
Yeah.
And the future of this surrounding area.
Well, the construction hasn't slowed down at all. It's been booming.
And with the devastation from the hurricane, they got to rebuild certain portions of this county and other counties, surrounding counties. So the needs are going to be there.
Yeah.
And we'll be there.
Yeah, it's two prongs. It's
Yeah.
it's the rebuild from the hurricane, and then also just all this new development going on. And they're starting to move out east, like where I'm at, and then even those communities past
Babcock
there.
Ranch. I mean,
in a
it's
lot of
booming.
ways, the east side's building faster than the west side. So I mean, it's great to see. And now they're making these communities, full of amenities. You can pull in your gate and not have to leave. It's
I go into Babcock Ranch. I just can't believe what they're developing out there.
It's amazing.
It's amazing, and it's only on phase 1. So I think there's 5 total phases, if I'm not mistaken. And phase 2 includes double what they got here. So God bless what's happening.
Really?
Sid Kitson, a good friend of ours from the East Coast, he's Kitson and Partners. They're the main lead on the development of Babcock Ranch, and they've done an amazing job. It's a city within a city. It's amazing.
Yeah, wild.
So
we're blessed to be doing about 95% of the new construction that's in there with the Pulte homes, with Lennar, D.R. Horton, Ryan Homes, and so forth. So
Wow.
we're blessed.
We're eventually gonna move into the municipal market. So areas, I believe 1 and 2 of Lee County are going to be coming out for RFP soon, and we're mostly a C&D company, but Tony ran the whole municipal side of the business on the East Coast. Had a phenomenally successful implementation of which area was it?
With
Area
the
5?
Solid Waste Authority,
Solid Waste
Area
Authority.
4, which
Area
is
4.
the southeast portion of Palm Beach County.
Okay.
So, we were precluded from participating in RFPs because of our experience on the East Coast. And we've figured out a way to boost that experience, even though we've all been born and raised in it. But at the end of the day, we got qualified, and Tony probably had the most successful implementation.
They
in
consider us a
municipal
small
contract.
private company doing $100 million a year, but fully financially capable of buying the equipment. But when we got the opportunity, and that opportunity came from some small municipalities, by winning cities out west like Pahokee, Florida, Southwest Ranches, stuff like that. We finally, got the attention, and the Solid Waste Authority allowed us to bid, and it again created a reputation for us here that yes, they could do it.
That we're hoping that to build on, and so God willing, we win 1 or 2 or whatever we could win. That we'll be diversifying our business platform into municipal solid waste. But we're just going to keep on growing within the footprint that we're in. It's a passion for Tony and I. It's more than just a dollars and cents thing, and so we don't have a timeline. If I had my wish list the way I feel now, one day hand it off to my kids and let them run it. I'd probably drive my whole family crazy if I retired again. But at the end of the day, we plan on being here for a very long time and growing within the footprint. To answer your question, the biggest challenge is labor. You can't get skilled labor, or any labor for that matter. Truck drivers specifically. I mean, we could get people to hold the wheel, but the pool of qualified drivers is just really, really thin. Same thing with mechanics, welders. Nobody wants to be a truck driver anymore. Nobody wants to be a mechanic anymore. And the thing of it is, our truck drivers are making north of $100,000 a year. This year, we're a privately owned company. We pay probably a little more than the public companies because we have to compete with their benefit packages. But now it's forced us. I mean, our health program is as solid as it's ever been, and we're looking to spend more money to make it stronger for our employees. We are offering 401k, vacation times that we used to get away with giving 2 weeks a year. We're going north of that now. So doing everything that we can, because it's cliche, but it's the truth. Your employees are your greatest asset. And if you don't have good people, you're not going to have a successful company. And the pool is really thin. We brought Sydney on not only to do our social media, but our cultural development inside of the company to make sure that everybody's being treated correctly, that we're living a servant leadership mentality, where it's not just all about ownership or the executive group. It's about, how could ownership in the executive group help you. It's you got to have that symbiotic relationship to be successful. And but the labor situation has been really, really difficult. I mean, combined with supply chain issues, if I could have got my hands on more trucks and more people, I would have, we probably would have, grown the company even faster than what we've grown it at. But it's definitely, supply chain issues seem to be easing up a little bit. Still difficult to get your hands on trucks. They're not like at the tip of your fingers like they used to be, but not quite as bad.
By third quarter, fourth quarter.
Well, you hope. But at the end of the day, finding good people is probably our biggest problem to have to solve.
Got it. And what do you think the cause of that is? Like, what's the underlying cause?
I think the way that, we grew up, all my dad's brothers were, in the waste business. They started driving trucks. My grandparents were Italian immigrants. So they all went to work at a very young age, and they found a source of pride of being a truck driver, of being a mechanic. I think as it's not socially that popular today to say, hey, I'm a truck driver. But at the end of the day, it pays more than most any job these kids are getting coming out of college, and they're not racking up student debt. I just think when people ask, what do you want to be when you get older, they're not saying a truck driver, and there's nothing they should be saying. I mean, when I graduated college, I drove a truck for a living. I mean, it was you could put food on the table. Now you're making a
could buy a pool.
Great living. And so like even now where we've gone, all of our trucks are fully automatic. Our average age of our fleet is 2 years old, which is insane. I mean, to have that young of a fleet, but you need to provide the best truck, the cleanest truck, the best equipment to attract the drivers. Because having driven a truck, you get a truck that's in rough shape. Driving stick after a while does get it wears you down a little bit. Having fully automatic trucks, a state-of-the-art maintenance facility to where, the AC is always working, the radio is always operational, the truck's taken care of so that you can come to work and do a day's worth of work and be comfortable. So, I mean, we've at a great expense to upgrade our equipment to make sure it's the best that we could provide our employees.
Yeah, but that's a big part of why you can grow that fast too, is like putting that effort, putting that time in, putting that money into to actually pay people, take care of people. Then people will actually go. Do you notice that because you do that, people go above and beyond to actually take care of your customers because of it?
Yeah. So every one of our employees, if they get a compliment from a customer, gets a $25 gift card either to Publix or a gas station. So they're definitely out there searching for the compliments. But listen, perception's reality. If the drivers are out there selling themselves, and they're making their customers happy, it gives them they feel better about Southwest Waste. By and large, most of them do it. Some kind of you always get those. Not everybody's so enthusiastic about it, but I would like to say that I personally, I mean, every time we do an acquisition, every driver gets my business card.
He speaks to every driver when we do an acquisition, gives them their cell phone number, gives them a card. I'm actually impressed when I see him talk to the guys the first day. And typically, we retain quite a bit of them, and some of them we have a program, and we're not going to deviate from that program because we got to look at the whole, not the few, and we got to be good for the whole company and everybody within the family, and not just a few guys that aren't going to get on. But when I see Charlie in action, when I see him with the drivers, I think that's where you feel most comfortable.
I do. It's because that's one thing that never goes away, right? And the camaraderie of the guys is great. But our program is definitely a strict program. I mean, every truck gets checked in at the end of the night. We're obsessive over the cleanliness of our equipment. If you ever see our trucks, I mean, this weekend this past weekend, touch a truck. People can't believe that actually picks up waste. But at the end of the day, it's
every day.
If you could fit into that culture of we're going to treat people correctly, we're going to keep our equipment clean, and we're going to work really hard and be proficient at our profession. You fit right in. So in a lot of ways, we do have a high expectation, but if you're able to meet that expectation, you got a wonderful home.
And what slowed us down a little bit on the East Coast, we grew so fast over there, was we buy a 4-acre piece and we needed 8 acres. We buy 8 acres, we needed 16. So Charlie's dad, so we buy, say, 7 acres on Rockville Road. He buys the 10 acres behind us because he knows eventually we're going to grow into it. So as
and
far
he's
as
sell it to us for a
and he's going to sell it to us for a profit. So, talk about wisdom, right? So
It's also payback for anything you put him through as a kid.
So
trust me, I put him through a bunch.
But we find that as far as our future growth here, make it almost unlimited to what we want to do. While again making sure our customers and the service never fails.
Yeah,
and that starts with our people. So like some of the things that we do differently. I think everybody's experienced. You call such and such company, and they queue you up, and you can't get a hold of anybody. Then our phones. I mean, other than through the hurricane when they were ringing off the hook, we have an expectation within 3 rings. The phone's lifted. You get a live person on the phone. And not only do you get a live person, you get a person that's upbeat, happy, and smart. Our customer service department here is outstanding. And it's not just, hey, let me pass you the billing. They try to work your problem all the way through until they can't get to a solution, and then they try to pass you on.
They get to know the customer, and the customer gets to know them, and they feel comfortable calling the office, speaking with that person. And
it's just, and you develop a rapport, but then there's some people that don't want to do it. We developed an app. We have an app that we launched that if you want to put your orders in through the app, now we're about to launch a program. It's either started or about to start where you could track your container, so they'll notify the customer when we're on the way to you, which is something different.
You got the pizza tracker for your dumpster?
Kind of something like that. It sends you a notification that, hey, your container's on the way. But, there's a lot of things that we're doing. We're having fun with it. It's a little more innovative than we've done before.
I think another one of the key things we did is on the acquisitions we did, all the people we acquired, they're still part of the team. They're still in business in some way, shape, or form. They're still customers of ours. They're still doing work for us in whatever business they went into. We talk to them every day. Typically, a company buys out somebody, and they kind of go at the wayside.
It's generally terrible.
Yeah. But not with anybody that we acquired. We've maintained that relationship. Just this morning, I was with one of the guys we acquired 2 years ago. And, the friendship is just as good now as it was 2 years ago when we acquired him. And now he's into 3 other businesses. He's one of our biggest customers. So, and it's fantastic. So
it's definitely, it's been a fun ride for we're 2 years. We're 2 years like now. Yeah. So
the 19th of, I think it was the 19th, we were sitting, right?
It's about this time.
We were sitting at the Luminary Hotel for a week waiting for the contract to get signed. And we lived there for a month. And then we lived downtown for 4 to 5 months in one of the at High Point. And here we are.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. Well, and so I know you're expanding. You just opened the Sarasota location pretty recently, right? And then I don't know if you got some other locations that are coming.
So Port Charlotte's coming out of the ground. There's not a recycling center, C&D recycling center in that county yet. So we're hoping to be the first one that opens. So we're moving as fast as we can to build it out. That's going to be probably the most exciting thing that we have going. The facility that we have in off Mainline in Fort Myers, that goes under. It's a recycling facility now. We're processing there. The new system's going in, so we're going to rip out the old system, put in the new system. So that's going to happen in March. Naples, we were planning just to do a transfer facility from there to one of our recycling facilities and process there. But that's looking like now that's going to become a recycling center. So, so generally what we have 2 types of facilities. We have transfer facilities where we collect material and then transfer it to one of the processing sites where we process it. And then we have our processing sites. But independently, in what dictates that's volume.
Sure.
So at the end of the day, like the facility at Mainline really didn't have enough volume, and we needed to feed it with the Naples facility. But now it looks like it's a standalone facility. So Sarasota, we had planned on being a transfer facility. It's looking like that now is going to need to be a processing facility. So within the next 2 years, we're going to have 2 built out this year, and then probably just in our current footprint, another 2 more following that. So, as what we thought we'd be through construction in the first 2 years is looking more like a 4 or 5 year window.
Got it. What's the process like to rip out an old system and put a new system in? Like,
fun.
Yeah, what do
It's
you?
not fun.
What are
While
all the
you're still operating?
While you're still operating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we don't shut down because we still got to process. We have still to service our customers. So luckily, like I said before, we got a great relationship with the local leadership and with the DEP, and we've been able to do it in phases and make sure that we continue operating while doing that install. Typically, an install on the new piece of machinery will take anywhere from 8 to 10 weeks. But the construction around it is
Sure.
what it is. So, we got to manage it the right way, keeping safety with our employees, with our customers, and everything else in hand. But it's
controlled chaos.
It's a controlled
yeah.
chaos.
It
It's
is.
a great way to put it.
It's controlled chaos. But then, it's a means to an end. You start it, we'll sit there and, pull our hair out for a few months. And then once it's done, you're like, and there's just no good time ever to do it. We're hoping that, we're just so happy that the cleanup for the hurricane went as fast as it did. Because obviously we would have delayed the installation until we were on the backside of that. But it's looking like we got a good control over the volumes. So it's controlled chaos.
Over the past 22 years, we always look back at things that we tackled, 10, 15, 20 years ago. And we laugh about it now, even though it wasn't, and we realize that, all right, we could do that. And I don't think there's anything we can't tackle at this point. So.
Yeah. Well, what was the difference this time of going into business, having all this experience and starting this one up? What kind of lessons did you bring, or what was really the main difference that you guys saw with this particular process?
Confidence. So my dad before me built a successful business in New York, and it gave him confidence, to come down here and do it. And then when you get out on your own, when I graduated college, I drove a truck and I had got lent the money to start my first business independent of my family. And you're not really sure if you can do it or not.
Yeah,
you think you can, but you don't really know. And, when everybody talks about success and, there's a lot of circumstance that goes along with it. There's a lot of smart, talented, and well-capitalized people that don't make it in business. I mean, you look at what COVID did. I mean, you could have been the best restaurateur in the world. If you open up during COVID or, open up and then COVID hits, what do you do? So us having the success that we had on the East Coast through the ups and downs, like I don't think we'll ever see an economic event in the housing market like we saw in 2008. But I remember there was days sitting at my desk in 2008 saying, where's the bottom? The volumes just kept dropping and dropping and dropping. And we live on volume, so at the end of the day, having lived through that and came out the other side even bigger and stronger, gives you the confidence that as long as you stay grounded, you make good common sense decisions. Our work ethics, I mean, I can't even call it a work ethic. I love what I do. So it's like fun for me.
Yeah.
I mean, when we moved here, I sold my boat. I'm like, my wife's like, I'm happy. I'm going back to work. So, it's really the confidence of, and then obviously having the capital behind you to be able to go do that without having the worry, like, where am I going to generate capital from is a huge benefit. But I would say most of all, you've seen it, you've done it, you've been through the ups, you've been through the downs, and short of a world event, a war or something like that, everything else is pretty much correctable.
Yeah. You've seen it before.
Yep.
Yeah.
You retired for a little bit?
Semi-retired. Retired for
I
me.
wouldn't say retired.
Were you going out of your mind during that time?
Well, so we sold the waste management on the East Coast.
January 2016.
2016. They were great with us. Stayed on there for 6 months. And then we started the businesses on Long Island. We had one small company running on Long Island, and then my dad wanted to go do another acquisition because that's like his hometown where he grew up. He spends half the year on Long Island. So I immediately went up there. I worked 4 or 5 months a year for the next 3 years up there, And then as my kids started getting older with school, that obviously diminished. And then
Sure.
I'd fly up periodically. But like I said, once COVID hit and I was home every day, I was pulling my hair out. So, when I say retired, I was just working less, but just certainly not enough.
Seems like you seem like the kind of person that works like 80 to 100 hours a week.
He's amazing.
And semi-retired is working like 40 to 50 hours.
Well,
that's pretty
maybe
much
I'm not
what
at the
it
office
is.
80 to 100, but we're. I mean, it's if I'm not if it's Tony's the same way. If we're not at work, we're on the phone talking about work.
Text messages start from the facilities from the night shift start at what, 4:30?
Yeah.
4:30 in the morning. The drivers start going out at 5:30. You can see the text coming in. He's responding. I'm responding, and. During when we did sell, I took over the companies on the East Coast of Florida, the metal company and the rock yards, and we really didn't slow down during. Florida was a lot easier, so we kept moving through, which occupied a lot of time. But when he said, "Hey, you want to go start up a company on the West Coast?" We were in that plane and we were on our way here. And so I remember landing that first day.
Yeah, I remember after the first day, I came on and go, "Hun, we got to move."
Yeah, we were looking at buying
my wife's like, "We're moving again." I'm like, "Yes."
We were looking at buying a 3-truck operation. We ended up with a 15-20 truck operation on the first acquisition, right?
Yep.
So
it's been a really, really fun ride. But retirement, that's we joke around and laugh. I mean, even I would say 3 of my best friends are all in the waste business. So it's like my cousins from Connecticut, they're in the waste business. So everything we're doing, I mean, the social group that we hang out with is in the waste business. I mean, you got us, my dad and I, we'll start on a conversation, how's kids, how's this, how's that? And within 2 minutes, we're right into talking about work. Yeah. And it's our passion. We enjoy it. It's not a something that's forced. So, when you love what you do, it's, makes it easy.
Yeah, for sure. Well, guys, I mean, thanks for coming and doing this. I appreciate it. But before we wrap up, is there anything else that you guys want to touch on? Like anything important to make
No,
note?
I just, the only thing that I really look to put out there is, when it comes to recycling, everybody keeps an open mind. Look at things, some of the stuff that concerns people or makes them nervous, look at it, get educated on it, where we open up our facilities, our recycling facilities, to anybody who wants to come in other than competition. But anybody, any government agency, school, look at what we're doing. So when it references C&D recycling, right? So when people call it waste or garbage, it's really not. It's stuff that you live in every single day. It's the wood on your walls. It's the concrete on your floor. It's stuff that you live in every day. Now, when you rip it down, you throw it into a box, or you're building something and it's a scrap pieces, it doesn't change what it is. So it's a really clean, and it gets wrapped up in a different distinction. So when people hear waste, they say, well, garbage is garbage, but it's really not.
Yeah.
The C&D waste stream. And the reason why I point that out is because with the growth that we're going to be experiencing here on the west coast of Florida, there's going to be a lot more construction. Landfills obviously are definitely a necessity. They're always going to be there. But, technology, definitely helps with the, progress of recycling. So some of the things that we're looking into down the line is, if you look at our residue product, a lot of it's plastics. It's got a high burn rate. It's perfect to be burned and used and converted to energy. So when we start talking about recycling and, our recycling percentages, when you really start studying the waste stream, there's only maybe 1 or 2 items, mainly roofing shingles and tires, that you can't really, there's not really something coming down the line, which is a practical use for them to recycle. But there's a lot out there. And, Lee County does a great job with their solid waste department, of being, intuitive, looking for ways to advance recycling. So, as it pertains to C&D waste, I really think there's going to be a time where you can say C&D waste, there's going to be 100% use for everything that comes through a facility. And just by keeping people educated. So, that's why we like people to come to our facilities and do a tour, because you'll get a lot of people saying, hey, I don't want this in my backyard. But it's really not. The place looks like a park. There's dust suppression everywhere. And then when you see the recycling process is actually pretty clean, as clean as it can get. You know, like a single stream facility may look a little neater in the sense that not as many moving parts,
Sure.
Right on the floor. But we welcome people to come and look at it, not to be afraid of the process.
Yeah.
I would like to say any of the businesses, the leadership, anybody that watches or listens to your podcast, I just want to thank them because they trust in us. They believed in us in the beginning and sticking with us through the acquisitions. And just thank you. And here we are 2 years later, bigger and better than we were the day we got here. And it's all because of them. So thank you to all.
And anything with the community, anything that you're doing with the community, anything that we could be partners with, Sydney does a lot. Anything that we do to help Lee County, the city of Fort Myers, Bonita Springs, any of the cities that are in Lee County, anything that we could do, we're always there. So
yeah, well, and you guys have been doing a bunch of stuff lately out in the community.
Yes.
I've been seeing Sydney, everything that you're putting out there too. What are some of the things that you guys have been doing lately?
So we all have our different passions. Like we love the sheriff's department. We think we got the best sheriff in the state of Florida, probably the country. So anything with helping local law enforcement, anything with the kids, anything that's kids driven, anything with the local schools. I mean,
recreation sports.
Yeah, it was sports. Yeah, we're all big into the sports. But at the end of the day, it's where our heart moves us. So people have a lot of things that motivate them. It's not all about making money. It's about making the area that you're working and living in better. And anything that we could do to help that, it does mean something to us, much more than recognition. So if there's anything that you're doing, like Sydney works, tirelessly at saying, hey, we're getting asked to do this. And honestly, I probably say yes way more than I should on stuff. But, it's just...
He does. He says yes to everything.
It's it's our home, so it's a good thing. So, anything with that, anything that we could do with attracting new talent, getting people through our doors. We have a full-time recruiter. So, you see headhunting agencies out there. Well, we have our very own. All she does is source employees for our company. Her name's Jessica. So, that's the thing that we really, for us to grow and do what we want to do, we want to get good people in. So, we don't argue much about pay. I always use my analogy. I don't mind spending $30 for a cheeseburger, but it better be a really good cheeseburger.
Yeah.
When it comes to our employees, I don't mind paying, but we want to make sure that, we get the best of what's out there. We're doing things like our corporate office that is going to be under construction here shortly. I mean, is nothing short of amazing. I mean, it's providing a work environment for people that's, maybe better than what they're used to. So anything that you guys are doing in the community, anything that we do to attract talent, that's, what we're looking to do.
Absolutely. Well, guys, thank you for doing this. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Cool. This episode is brought to you by Southwest Florida Podcast. We help businesses make marketing videos. A lot of businesses see the value in video content, but they don't know where to start. We work with businesses to highlight the value they bring to their customers and share that online. Now, we've created the Marketing Manager's Guide to Video Content that you can download for free by following the link below or scanning the QR code on your screen.